When we remember a time, we remember moments. A kaleidoscope of the sights, the sounds, the emotions that remind us of the way we were. Our world. It's about time. Tonight, Duels in the Sun, Campaign 52. Here are Linda Ellerby and Ray Gandolf.
For the next hour, think of your television set as a time machine.
And gird your loins, throw down your gauntlet, and if somebody slaps your face, choose your weapon.
Welcome to 1952.
And the greatest vacation spot there is, America. You can drive to it. What's more, the price is right. Gas is a big 27 cents per gallon.
Happy trails to you. It's great to say hello.
Sure, it's great to say hello. Talk is cheap. Tourist courts are not. And often they charge extra to anybody picky enough to think the children ought to sleep indoors too, even if everybody shares one room or bed. Kimmons Wilson is about to challenge the system. He's a builder who lives in Memphis, Tennessee. He can afford to travel, but not to stop.
I had 5 children. My $8 room became $18. I told my wife, this is unfair. Nobody will want to travel with their children. And I'm going home, and I'm going to build a chain across the country, and I'll never make a charge for children as long as they live in the same room with their parents. I also wanted to be sure that I had a clean room. I wanted to have a television. I wanted to have everything that I wanted in my room when I went.
The next place he goes is to Ed Bluestein, a draftsman.
And I said, I'm going to build a motel, and I want you to draw it for me like this. 4 or 5 days later, he came back with the drawing. Up at the top, he had scratched the name Holiday Inn. I said, that's a pretty good name. Where did you get it? He says, I saw Bing Crosby in the movie last night on television.
I think I've dreamed up the greatest idea I ever had. And you've had some pips. Oh, but this can't miss. I'm turning the farm into an inn. But what an inn. Yeah, Holiday Inn.
I said, that's a great name. We'll use it.
August 2nd, Kimmons Wilson's first Holiday Inn opens in the one town he already has a place to stay, Memphis.
If the traffic noise affects you like a squeaky violin, kick your cares down the stairs and come to Holiday Inn.
In the summer of '52, Kimmons Wilson is definitely giving us a sign.
At least 50 feet tall. I wanted to have a changeable letter marquee on it. What I wanted was, when you rode up there, we could give you a message. We could tell you, hello, Mr. Jones, we're happy you're here. And you can't believe how much people like seeing their own name in lights.
Happy trails to you until we meet again.
When Roy Rogers rode those happy trails the summer of '52, his fast food restaurants were still beyond the blue horizon. But he already was one smart hombre. He did his writing and his singing on TV, not in the movies. Come back to another Duel in the Sun, when Western movies get shot down by TV sitcoms.
Let's see him top this on television.
Let me introduce you to the A+.
Do not forsake me, oh my darling.
The marshal married the Quaker lady that morning. He promised to lay down his guns forever, but a bad man is coming to town on the train. It arrives at high noon.
You all know why I'm here. I need deputies. I'll take all I can get.
The town, however, is not very much interested in the duel between good and evil.
You must be crazy coming in here to raise a posse. Frank's got friends in this room. You ought to know that.
A cliched shootout does turn into a classic duel, and if everything seems familiar but different, Stanley Kramer, the producer, is familiar but different.
I wasn't equipped to make a Western. I was a boy producer, what was nauseatingly referred to as a wunderkind at that time, but I was making films that I thought, since I grew up in the time of social change, were about something. It wasn't the kind of ordinary Western, either in Technicolor or with a lot of animals and chases and whatever. None of that. This was on a small town street, and the whole thing took place there.
High Noon was also the first Western for director Fred Zinnemann.
Friends of mine said, why do you want to do a Western? You're an Austrian director. What do you know about Westerns? And the point was that I saw more to it than just a Western. The fact it was a Western was the background, but the story to me was about commitment.
Why are you stopping?
It's no good. I've got to go back, Amy.
Why?
This is crazy. I haven't even got any guns.
Then let's go on. Hurry.
No. That's what I've been...
A marshal who goes back without his gun is stubborn. So's an actor who gets his first chance to be in a movie and rejects the producer. Kramer found that out when he meets Lee Van Cleef.
He asked me to fix my nose. And I told him no. I don't think too pleasantly. And the interview was automatically over. Then, he called me back. He wanted me to play a heavy. All right. I'd like that. He said, yeah, but there's no dialogue, there's no lines, there's nothing in there except just do the thing.
And both the movie world and the real world would come to understand that High Noon is a Western, except that it isn't a Western.
I didn't see any Indians. I didn't see the story between cattlemen and sheepmen. I didn't see land barons trying to take over a town. All the old themes weren't there.
And a macho marshal does not marry a Quaker pacifist, unless she's Grace Kelly.
The agent brought a photograph of this very pretty girl. And we all thought she was very pretty, and she looked right. She looked sort of bloodless, and very much the virginal type, inhibited and all that. And so she was hired off the photograph.
Not if they didn't know where to find her.
Who else but that actor nobody can catch acting, that perfect pebble kicker of them all, Gary Cooper, could get away playing a hero that wants to drop out and can't.
I'm not trying to be a hero. If you think I like this, you're crazy.
The man was not Superman. He was not the mythical hero on a white horse. He was a man who was afraid.
You scared? I guess so.
A man who was not a shining Western hero, but a middle-aged man who was not feeling very well. And as luck would have it, sounds perhaps cynical, but Gary at that point had a bit of arthritis, and he was slightly stiff in his movements, which was also very helpful.
But most of what makes this movie magic is no accident. Consider the matter of time. The story takes place at the same time it takes to tell the story. Marshal, townfolk, everybody wait the same 85 minutes before the sun is high and the duel begins.
Anything on the train?
It's on time as far as I know, sir.
In High Noon, the clock is a versatile character actor.
We photographed clocks on mantelpieces, on walls, in bars, in houses, in churches. I don't know. We photographed a clock every place it could be photographed in order to use them to build the suspense.
The hero is alone, as he always has been. But it's only a movie. And what we see when the villain's former girlfriend, Kati Hirado, sees the villain is not what it seems.
Kati in the train, when the train starts moving and she hears the shooting, I wanted her to look around, and she didn't. And I asked her later why she didn't, and she said because her bra had slipped up and she couldn't move.
To protect the town, the marshal breaks his promise to his wife and takes his gun up. To protect her husband, the Quaker breaks her promise to God and takes a gun. And the killers are killed, except for the marshal and the Quaker. The ending doesn't fit that American myth we call the Western, and those who believe in myths do not like High Noon.
You know, John Wayne once said this High Noon was a communist film. Why? I asked him why. He said, well, when the marshal at the end of the story dropped his badge into the dust and rode off from the town, that was the most un-American act I'd ever seen in film.
To the presidential campaign of 1952. What would American history have been had television been here at the outset? What if we could see that James Madison stood 5'4"? Was that presidential stature? Abe Lincoln looked like a rail splitter, and he had a thin, high-pitched voice. What about these guys? No Jack Kennedys here, no Ronald Reagans. In 1952, television was very kind to Dwight Eisenhower and cured Richard Nixon's political headache.
Headache throbbing like a drum. Don't let it last and last. Get quick relief with Bufferin. It's fast, fast, fast.
New tools for old duels. What would TV try to sell us next?
Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Richard Nixon.
My fellow Americans, I come before you tonight
as damaged goods. Seems that when the candidate was the senator, he had a secret slush fund. Nixon decided to keep his political future from going down the tube by going on the tube. His TV advisor, Ted Rogers, said it was a good idea.
I made certain that he understood how many products that were advertised on television moved the next day or were sold in the next week because they were seen on television, and how effective television was if it were done correctly, and if there wasn't much between the viewer and the product or the viewer and the screen.
The product says he did nothing illegal. He got a little help from his friends, secretly. It was only the better to serve his constituents. He's just a regular American.
I own a 1950 Oldsmobile car. We have our furniture.
With a regular American debt.
I owe $3,500 to my parents, and the interest on that loan, which I pay regularly, because it's the part of the savings they made through the years they were working so hard.
And he has a regular American wife.
I should say this, that Pat doesn't have a mink coat, but she does have a respectable Republican cloth coat. And I always tell her that she'd look good in anything.
She wasn't there as a prop. I mean, I can assure you of that 1,000 times over. She was on that telecast because he personally wanted her on that telecast as half of a team, of a husband and wife.
The half who speaks says he did take one gift that wasn't for the good of his constituents. What was it?
You know what it was? It was a little Cocker Spaniel dog in a crate that he'd sent all the way from Texas. Black and white, spotted. And our little girl, Tricia, the 6-year-old, named it Checkers. And you know, the kids, like all kids, love the dog. And I just want to say this right now, that regardless of what they say about it, we're going to keep it.
That will be remembered as the Checker speech. He will be remembered as a man who doesn't know when to quit.
I don't believe that I ought to quit, because I'm not a quitter. And incidentally, Pat's not a quitter. After all, her name was Patricia Ryan, and she was born on St. Patrick's Day, and you know the Irish never quit.
She wasn't born on St. Patrick's Day, and her mother was German. So what? It's the product that counts in television, and if the viewers buy it, how can I turn it down?
Eisenhower is a great man, believe me. He's a great man. And a vote for Eisenhower is a vote for what's good for America.
The Republican Senatorial Committee and the Republican Congressional
And Nixon kept right on talking, and he forgot about the lights, he forgot about the camera. He did not see the tally light go off, and he walked right into the camera. His shoulder hit the camera.
Nixon aide Pat Hillings was watching as the hard-hitting candidate committed his first TV no-no.
He said, I didn't get off on time. I didn't get off on time. He forgot the whole impact of the speech.
I can tell you that when that telecast was over, every single member of that floor crew had tears in his eyes.
They weren't alone. Tear-jerking on television did the trick for Dick Nixon.
Telegrams at the rate of 4,000 an hour pour in overwhelmingly in favor of Nixon.
The Nixon Checker speech established television, if it hadn't been established before, as the most powerful medium in any political campaign.
The man from Adlai. Elect the #1 man.
Eisenhower didn't need a dog. He had a distinguished record and a big smile, a perfect package for Madison Avenue. Jock Elliott was an account executive for Batten, Barton, Durston, and Osborne.
We wanted Eisenhower to use television in the way in which his abilities and his personality came across best. And that was in his dealing with people.
Eisenhower answers America.
The Democrats have made mistakes, but aren't their intentions good?
Well, if the driver of your school bus runs into a truck, hits a lamppost, drives into a ditch, you don't say his intentions are good. You get a new bus driver.
You know what things cost today. High prices are just driving me crazy.
Yes, my Mamie gets after me about the high cost of living. It's another reason why
Ike's commercials featured Ike. Stevenson tried to stay away from his ads.
Vote Stevenson, vote Stevenson, a man you can believe in, son.
Eisenhower was reluctant to make commercials. Stevenson hated the whole idea, and so did his aide, George Ball.
It meant that we weren't going to merchandise candidates for the ideas that they expressed or the views they put forth. We were going to merchandise them as though they were mouthwash or shaving cream or something, a commodity.
Let us be sure that our vision is high enough and broad enough.
Stevenson said he wanted to talk sense to the American people. Try that on TV.
Stevenson was never comfortable with television.
Newton Minow was Stevenson's administrative assistant.
He hadn't adjusted at all to the new medium. He never would adjust the length of a speech to the fact that you had to get it done in 28 minutes because his speeches would run over time and get cut off.
The time purchased for this program has now elapsed.
Each candidate also traveled about 33,000 miles.
Because the guy is the guy wherever he may be. So listen and I'll tell you what this fella did to me. I never saw the boy before, so nothing could be sillier. At closer range, his face was strange, but his manner was familiar. Because the guy is the guy.
In Casson, Minnesota, the candidates crossed paths, both showing up for a